The hospital's security canine repeatedly barked at a nurse, triggering alarms that were perplexing. However, when security reviewed the camera footage, the medical staff was stunned by what they observed. Here's the account of events. Before we proceed with today's story, please leave a comment below indicating your location. And if you enjoy remarkable police dog stories such as this one, be sure to subscribe for future content. You won't want to miss what's coming next. The consistent beeping of vital sign monitors provided a steady soundscape to the busy evening shift at Memorial General Hospital. Officer Trevor Daniels walked through the main lobby, Ranger positioned perfectly at his heel. The Belgian Malinois' muscular build displayed the unmistakable presence of a working dog, his alert eyes surveying their surroundings with professional focus. Evening, Officer Trevor Daniels. Sandra called from the information desk. Making your rounds? Just starting, Daniels responded. Sandra then lowered her voice. Dr. Harper was inquiring about prescription counts again in oncology. It's probably nothing, but I thought you should be aware, she added. Daniels acknowledged, registering the information. After 3 weeks assigned to this hospital security detail, the pharmaceutical discrepancies that had prompted his assignment remained elusive. Memorial General had requested canine assistance after noticing subtle irregularities in their medication tracking. Nothing dramatic, but concerning enough for the administration to seek specialized help. Daniels hadn't planned on becoming a canine handler. His career path had been directed towards tactical response until a high-speed chase resulted in 3 broken ribs and a shattered femur. When the canine division proposed he might possess the appropriate temperament for handler work, he initially doubted it. Then he encountered Ranger, already demonstrating remarkable focus and seemingly understanding Daniels' physical limitations even before Daniels himself recognized them. 4 years later, that unexpected partnership had resulted in one of the department's highest success rates. They communicated with quiet efficiency. A minor adjustment in Daniels' posture would guide Ranger's focus. The slightest movement in the dog's ear would warn Daniels of something needing attention as they approached the east corridor containing the specialized care units. Daniels observed a distinct change in Ranger's behavior. The dog's ears rose, his walk becoming more measured, muscles tightening beneath his short tan coat. The shift was slight, but noticeable to Daniels. Following Ranger's attention, he observed a nurse exiting pediatric oncology, maneuvering a medication cart. She moved with practiced ease, reviewing something on a tablet. Her appearance gave no indication of anything out of the ordinary. Wearing standard blue scrubs, with dark hair pulled back neatly, she presented the professional demeanor typical of experienced medical staff. Yet Ranger's behavior continued to intensify, shifting into what Daniels recognized as pre-alert posture. Not the full alert for narcotics or contraband, but the preparatory stance suggesting something had captured his highly trained senses. "Easy, boy," Daniels murmured as they approached. The nurse looked up, offering a professional smile that reached her tired eyes. The identification on her badge read Abigail Winters, RN, Pediatric Oncology. "Good evening, officer," she said, her voice even and composed. "First time seeing a police dog in our department." Daniels replied, "We're checking all departments. Just routine security rounds." As she passed by, Ranger's head followed her, his focus intense, which sparked Daniels' investigative instincts. It wasn't his standard alert for narcotics. This presented an unusual situation, deviating from their typical detection procedures. "First time on the oncology floor?" inquired Dr. Martin, the hospital security chief, as he approached from a nearby corridor. "Abigail Winters is one of our top performers. She transferred from Chicago Memorial about 18 months ago. Triple certified, proficient in 4 languages, and she volunteers at the free clinic on weekends. We're fortunate to have her." As they continued their patrol, Daniels resolved to learn more about Abigail Winters. Throughout their time working together, Ranger had never been mistaken when he focused his attention in this manner. For the subsequent 4 days, Daniels modified their patrol routes to incorporate more regular passes through the pediatric oncology department. He stated it was part of a comprehensive coverage plan. However, his real intention was to witness additional interactions between Ranger and Nurse Winters. Every encounter yielded the same outcome. Ranger's focused attention, a subtle tension in his body, but without the formal alert he'd been trained to give for narcotics or other contraband. James Wong, the night security supervisor, observed as they reviewed camera footage in the security office. Something I should know about? Daniels hesitated, reluctant to voice suspicions based solely on his dog's behavior. Just being thorough, Ranger has shown some interest in that department. Wong raised an eyebrow. He wondered if the interest was in medications or in Nurse Winters, noting that both he and his dog had observed her. He smiled. You wouldn't be the first officer captivated by those green eyes. He added that half the male staff had asked her out. Daniels insisted it was professional interest, though he understood the assumption. Abigail Winters was undeniably attractive, but it was her interaction with Ranger that held his attention. He then inquired, has Winters ever been involved in any security incidents? Were there any medication errors, patient grievances, or anything out of the ordinary? Wong's face became serious. Actually, the opposite. She consistently achieves the highest patient satisfaction scores within the department. Families often request her directly for end-stage cases. He examined Daniels intently. What's the reason for the focus on our top nurse? Rather than providing a direct response, Daniels inquired, could you retrieve patient outcome data for pediatric oncology, covering the past 18 months organized by attending nurse? Wong appeared uneasy but agreed, accessing the hospital's data analytics system. This is not a common occurrence, as these reports usually require administrative approval. Please consider it part of our security audit, Daniels responded, observing the data appear on screen. The resulting graph displayed patient mortality rates, categorized by nursing staff. The majority of nurses were near the statistical average, given the seriousness of pediatric cancer cases. One statistic stood out subtly yet steadily. It was Nurse Abigail Winters' performance. That's peculiar, Wong commented. Her patient mortality rate was approximately 8% higher than expected based on statistical models. Could be a chance occurrence, Daniels offered, presenting an alternative viewpoint. Perhaps she receives the most challenging patient assignments. Wong acknowledged this possibility, though a concerned look crossed his face. However, the patient assignment rotation system is designed to distribute complex cases fairly among all competent staff. He entered a few more keystrokes, displaying another report. This presented another anomaly, unplanned medication interventions during night shifts. These were instances where patients required urgent treatment due to unexpected reactions or complications. This graph highlighted a clearer trend. Emergency interventions occurred at almost double the rate during winter shifts when compared to other nurses handling comparable patient assignments. Has anyone looked into this? Daniels inquired. Wong indicated his disagreement. These connections would only become noticeable if someone was actively searching for them. Medicine isn't a precise science. Unforeseen complications arise, particularly with pediatric cancer patients. Daniels considered Ranger's regular response to Winters. His partner wasn't signaling a narcotics diversion. The behavior would have been clearly distinct. This indicated something else. Something Ranger had been trained to recognize, but Daniels had yet to determine. Could I see footage of Winters preparing medications? He inquired. Wong retrieved several video clips displaying the nurse within the medication preparation room. Her procedure seemed impeccable, with double-checking of dosages, thorough documentation, and adherence to all established protocols. However, something about her actions gave Daniels the impression it was staged, as though she was acutely aware of being watched. What's located in the lower compartment of the medication carts? Daniels inquired, observing that Winters sometimes went to this area outside the camera's view. These were typically personal items. Hospital policy permits nurses to keep a backup set of scrubs, lunch, and personal belongings, none related to medical supplies. Afterward, that evening, Daniels stationed himself and Ranger close to the nurse's station as shift change neared. Nurse Winters came out of a patient's room, appearing professional but tired after 12 hours of work. When she saw them, a brief expression crossed her face. A moment of caution preceded her regaining composure. Officer Daniels, we meet again. Her smile appeared sincere, but didn't fully reach her eyes. Your partner seems exceptionally alert tonight. As if validating her comment, Ranger's stance grew rigid, his attention fixed on her medication cart instead of on Winters himself. Daniels noticed the difference. A long shift? He inquired casually. It was a challenging one, she responded. We lost Ethan on April 12th this afternoon. She succumbed to terminal leukemia, though the passing occurred more swiftly than anticipated. Her voice conveyed appropriate compassion, and her expression was carefully managed to project professional concern, avoiding overt emotion. I'm sorry to hear that, Daniels said, observing her intently. Was it anticipated? A brief hardening flickered in her eyes. In pediatric oncology, officer, death is invariably expected. The only factors are when and how. She looked at her watch. Please excuse me, I need to finish my documentation prior to the handoff. As she departed, Nurse Chun from the following shift came forward, observing Winters' departing form with a concerned look. Another patient? She inquired of Daniels softly. A boy in room April 12th, he confirmed. Winters stated that it was a terminal case. Chen's expression grew serious. Ethan had been responding favorably to his new treatment protocol last week. His lab results had been improving. She shook her head. Within the field of oncology, one becomes accustomed to managing expectations regarding patient outcomes. However, occasionally, the results defy explanation. How frequently does that occur? Daniels inquired, adopting a relaxed manner. Chun paused, displaying evident discomfort. Medicine isn't always predictable, particularly when dealing with pediatric cancer, she stated softly. But candidly, it appears to happen more often during Abby's work periods. The other nurses have observed this as well, though no one wishes to voice their concerns. Her records are consistently impeccable, and her procedures are technically faultless. As Chun moved to commence her shift, Daniels knelt beside Ranger, who remained attentive to the path Winters had taken. What are you detecting, boy? He murmured, gently stroking behind the dog's ears. What isn't she revealing? He remembered Ranger's advanced training, extending beyond routine narcotics identification. The canine unit possessed certification in detecting chemical adulterants, substances introduced into medications that would not be identified during routine inventory assessments. This specialized capability arose following an incident involving a hospital staff member suspected of tampering with patient medications. The possibility deeply concerned Daniels. If Winters were somehow altering medications instead of misappropriating them, it would clarify both Ranger's atypical alert responses and the concerning patient outcome data. Furthermore, Daniels suspected events far more serious than drug theft were occurring at Memorial General. He needed proof beyond data and animal reactions before presenting such a significant concern to hospital leadership. Charging their leading nurse necessitated undeniable certainty, so Daniels resolved to request security camera installation in unmonitored zones, particularly focusing on the medication preparation room during winter shifts. The overnight shift at Memorial General operated with a distinct pace compared to the daytime shift. Fewer staff members, lower lighting, and the quietness of the essential personnel fostered an environment where observations were more pronounced. Daniels had specifically asked for the night shift to monitor Nurse Winters, who had changed to the night rotation for the week. They situated themselves carefully close to the central monitoring station, allowing them to observe without drawing immediate attention. He told the inquisitive desk attendant that they were conducting a night shift security audit. We're evaluating protocols across all time periods, he explained. At precisely 2:17 a.m., Winters appeared at the far end of the corridor, pushing her medication cart with practiced efficiency. She moved with a confident and familiar air, her steps purposeful as she entered the room of a new patient, 8-year-old Michael Torres, recently admitted with an aggressive form of lymphoma. Ranger's reaction was immediate and intense. His muscles tensed, ears forward, eyes locked on Winters' cart as she disappeared into the room. Daniels had observed this behavior consistently enough to trust it without question. He whispered to the security attendant, "Wait here." He needed to observe the medication preparation room. With practiced stealth, Daniels positioned himself where he could see into the medication room adjacent to the nurse's station. The transparent walls allowed staff supervision while providing a controlled environment for drug preparation. 3 minutes later, Winters emerged from Michael's room and headed directly to this preparation area. Her actions were deliberate as she logged into the medication system, retrieved several vials, and began preparing what appeared to be a standard treatment protocol. Nothing in her actions seemed out of the ordinary. She double-checked dosages, documented each step, and adhered to standard procedures with textbook precision. Then, glancing quickly around the quiet floor, she reached beneath her scrub top and removed a small cosmetic bag from an inner pocket. With practiced efficiency, she unzipped it and removed a small vial holding a clear liquid. The vial lacked a pharmacy label and a tracking barcode, a significant breach of protocol. Daniels held his breath, observing as Winters carefully added several drops from this unauthorized vial to Michael's medication bag. Her movements were quick and confident, revealing a routine she had performed repeatedly. She placed the vial back into her cosmetic bag, carefully securing it, and continued her documentation as if everything was normal. The whole process took under 20 seconds. Winters completed her documentation, seeming entirely calm as she got ready to administer the altered medication to her patient. As she turned to leave, she stopped short. Rangers was positioned in the hallway, his focused attention fixed on her medication cart, with Daniels close behind. A fleeting, cold expression crossed her face before her professional demeanor returned. "Officer Daniels working late tonight?" He responded calmly, observing her placement between him and the medication. "Preparing treatment for Michael Torres?" She replied, her voice even, though her eyes remained cautious. "Is there something I can assist you with?" Daniels indicated the medication bag. "I observed you added something from a personal vial. That isn't standard procedure, is it?" The question lingered between them. For a brief moment, Winters' professionalism seemed to falter, her fingers subtly tightening on the bag. She then offered a smile, a familiar, assured look that had probably deflected doubt on numerous occasions. "You must be incorrect. Everything I've prepared originates from pharmacy stock. Please feel free to review the documentation." She presented her tablet, which accurately documented all medications, with no record of the unauthorized addition. "Rangers appears quite interested in your cart," Daniels noted, observing his partner's watchful stance. "He's specifically trained to identify substances not permitted in hospital environments." Winters' face grew stern. "Officer Daniels, these medications have strict time constraints. My patient requires them to be administered according to the prescribed schedule." She attempted to move past him, but Daniels adjusted his stance, remaining in place. "I'd like to see what's in your personal cosmetic bag," he stated softly. "That would be an invasion of privacy," she responded promptly. "Unless you have a warrant or specific hospital authorization, my personal belongings are protected. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a patient waiting." Their confrontation was broken up by the night nursing supervisor. "Is there a problem here?" Winters immediately adopted a concerned expression. "Michael's medication was getting delayed. I had just been explaining to Officer Daniels that timing is critical for chemotherapy protocols." Daniels made a split-second decision. Without immediate evidence, he couldn't prevent her from administering the medication, but he could ensure it was verified first. "I have observed a potential protocol violation. I would like pharmacy to verify this medication before administration." The supervisor looked startled. "This is quite unexpected during a shift. Introducing unapproved components to patient medications is also concerning," Daniels stated, observing Winters' reaction closely. "Hospital regulations allow security personnel to ask for confirmation if there's a suspicion of alteration." The term alteration created a palpable unease in the hallway. The supervisor's demeanor changed from uncertainty to worry. "Nurse Winters should have the pharmacy review this. I will personally deliver it to them." Winters argued that it was unnecessary, her composure beginning to falter. "The medication will degrade if not administered promptly," she stated. "Then we'll prepare a fresh dose while pharmacy analyzes this one," the supervisor responded firmly, taking the bag. "Protocol is clear when tampering is alleged." Winters' eyes shifted between them, calculations seeming to struggle beneath her careful expression. This is ridiculous. I've done nothing wrong. She retreated, her hand moving reflexively towards the pocket holding her cosmetic bag. Don't, Daniels said softly. Ranger approached, his training clear in his focused awareness. I'd like you to empty your pockets, Nurse Winters. I do not consent to a search, she responded, her voice firm. This is harassment. The supervisor stepped in. Abby, to expedite this, would you be willing to show us what's in your pockets? Then we can all return to our tasks. Winters paused, appearing to weigh her options. Then, carefully, she took out her hospital ID, a pen, and her cell phone. Satisfied? She asked, her voice devoid of warmth. However, Daniels had noticed the faint shape of a cosmetic bag beneath her scrubs. There's something else, Daniels stated. The bag you used before. At that moment, Winters' demeanor shifted. Her composed facade vanished, exposing a calculating and cold look underneath. I want to speak with hospital administration and my union representative. I will not continue this discussion without legal representation. The supervisor appeared increasingly concerned. Abby, please just display the bag to allow us to proceed. Michael requires his medication. Then, prepare a fresh dose, Winters stated, her carefully controlled composure visibly deteriorating. I am not participating in this line of questioning. Daniels reached for his radio. I request security be dispatched to the pediatric oncology medication preparation area. There is a possible medication tampering situation in progress. Within minutes, security personnel arrived, followed shortly by the on-call hospital administrator. As the situation escalated, Winters became increasingly defensive, declining to show the contents of her cosmetic bag or permit examination of her medication cart. I want these accusations documented, she insisted. My record is spotless. My patients receive exemplary care. It's important that we verify the medications you've prepared, the administrator said, instructing security to secure the medication cart and preparation area, treating them as potential evidence. Daniels then quietly spoke to the administrator. I need authorization for hidden cameras in the medication room and preservation of tonight's footage. I believe Nurse Winters has been tampering with patient medications for some time. The seriousness of the accusation became palpable. Should the allegations be substantiated, it would signify a devastating failure of confidence and possibly several instances of patient harm. The administrator acknowledged the severity of the situation with a somber nod. As Winters proceeded to the administrative offices, her gaze locked with Daniels, conveying a disturbing intensity. He observed the absence of fear. Instead, he detected only calculation and a more unsettling element that evoked a palpable chill. Ranger's earlier warnings proved accurate. The contents of that cosmetic bag were clearly not intended to aid patient recovery. By 6 a.m., the hospital conference room had been converted into a temporary command center. Digital displays showed security camera recordings, medication records, and patient files as a serious-looking group of hospital administrators, security staff, and police examined the information. Daniels was positioned close to the doorway. Ranger stood watch beside him as the hospital's chief of medicine replayed the security footage for the third time. There, Dr. Harrison stated, pausing the image. That is not standard procedure. The display showed Nurse Winters in the medication preparation room 3 nights earlier. She looked around, verifying her solitude, and then removed a small vial from her cosmetic bag. She worked with practiced efficiency, adding drops of an unknown substance to an 4 bag, carefully returning the vial to her bag, and then proceeding with documentation as if nothing unusual had occurred. The security director reported identifying 12 separate instances of this behavior over the past week. Scrolling through time-stamped images, these incidents always occurred during night shifts, and always when she believed no one was watching. Hospital Administrator Patricia Goldman rubbed her fingertips against her temples. The patient in this footage is Emma Reyes, located in room 409. What occurred to her following the medication administration? Pediatric oncologist, consulting his tablet, stated that she experienced unexplained tachycardia and respiratory distress roughly 40 minutes post-administration. We initially believed it was attributable to a reaction to her chemotherapy protocol. And did she recover? Goldman inquired, her voice strained. The oncologist's expression grew somber. Ultimately, she needed intensive care and experienced disruptions to her treatment timeline. Daniels observed their reactions as the meaning became clear. The first shock had faded, replaced by dread as more information emerged. This wasn't a case of unauthorized drug use for personal gain or financial benefit. It was intentional harm to a patient. What about the contents of the cosmetic bag? Dr. Harrison asked, addressing the police detective who had joined them. The lab is expediting the analysis, Detective Morales stated. Initial findings suggest a compound that imitates signs of infection in the bloodstream. In effect, it deceives the body, triggering an inflammatory reaction that mirrors sepsis. A palpable silence descended upon the room. The discovery was more unsettling than straightforward drug theft. This represented deliberate harm targeted at vulnerable children. How could we have overlooked this? Goldman questioned, her usual professional demeanor faltering. She has been with us for only 18 months. Her references were excellent. We've contacted Chicago Memorial, Morales explained. They have no record of an Abigail Winters ever being employed there. This revelation was significant. Falsified credentials, deliberate patient harm. The case was growing beyond anything they had initially suspected. What about patient outcomes during her employment? Daniels inquired. Beyond the incidents we've identified this week? The pediatric oncologist tapped his tablet, displaying a statistical analysis. We've identified 27 patients who experienced unexpected complications during Nurse Winters' shifts. 9 of those children died. His voice faltered. Deaths that were attributed to complications of their cancer or treatment. Dr. Harrison slammed her hand against the table. She's been hurting them deliberately, all this time, and we never suspected. She turned to Daniels. How did your dog know? What did he detect that our entire medical and security staff missed? Daniels looked down at Ranger, whose training and instincts had started the investigation. Ranger was initially trained for pharmaceutical detection, but he received further certification in chemical adulterants. He was identifying the foreign substance she was adding to the medications, something that wouldn't show up in your standard inventory controls. Where is Winters now? Goldman asked. In custody, Morales replied. A warrant was secured utilizing the available security footage. The district attorney is formulating charges, including at least multiple counts of assault, with the possibility of attempted murder contingent on the laboratory analysis determining her intent. A security technician entered the room, presenting a tablet to the security director. Sir, we have accessed Winters' locker. You must view this. The director's complexion changed as he reviewed the images. She maintained records, comprehensive notes regarding patient reactions, timestamps, and dosages. He looked up, visibly shaken, and displayed photographs of the children taken during their distress events. The revelation sent a chill through the room. This wasn't opportunistic behavior, it was methodical, documented, and calculated harm. We need to check her previous employment, Morales stated. If she falsified her credentials here, she likely did it elsewhere. There could be more victims. And we need to review every patient currently under her care, Dr. Harrison added. Some patients may still have contaminated medications in their systems or IVs. Goldman nodded, the burden of responsibility clear on her face. I'll authorize emergency blood work for all patients who received care from Winters in the past week and will need to notify families. She hesitated, the seriousness of the situation becoming apparent. How do we inform parents that someone they trusted with their children's lives was intentionally inflicting harm? A silence returned to the room as the question remained without a response. Daniels recalled the children he had observed during his patrols, already struggling with severe illnesses, their young bodies fighting cancer, and then being subjected to further harm by someone in a position of responsibility. What could have driven her? The pediatric oncologist inquired eventually. Was it money? Drugs? A form of excitement? Morales reviewed his notes. The contents of her locker and her responses during the initial interview suggest what psychological profilers identify as medical deception disorder, previously referred to as Munchausen by proxy. She appeared to gain satisfaction from fabricating medical emergencies and subsequently participating in or witnessing the reactions to them. But these weren't her children, Dr. Harrison pointed out. The understanding of this disorder has changed, Morales clarified. In certain situations, especially within medical environments, some perpetrators direct their actions toward patients instead of family members. The motivation can stem from the satisfaction of participating in an emergency response, appearing skilled during a crisis, or simply from exerting dominance over vulnerable individuals. As more details emerged, Daniels received a text message from the evidence technicians examining Winter's apartment. The journals discovered contained documentation covering more than 5 years. Past employment history shows records from 3 other hospitals, with a recurring pattern observed at each location. Winter's actions were escalating rapidly, indicating a years-long history of patient harm across multiple facilities. Her technique, involving the administration of substances that resembled natural illness complications, enabled her to avoid detection, progressing from hospital to hospital as concerns might have started to arise. Until a Belgian Malinois with specialized training detected what humans had missed. Goldman stood, her decision made. We will implement full transparency protocol. All affected families will be notified today. We will contact regulatory agencies and previous employers immediately, and we will implement emergency medication verification protocols for all pediatric patients. She turned to Daniels and Ranger. If you hadn't trusted your partner's instincts, this could have continued indefinitely. Ranger remained watchful next to Daniels, not realizing the significance of the discovery his specialized training revealed. For him, it was merely detection work, identifying an anomalous substance. For the children in the oncology unit, it represented a crucial difference, a reprieve from further suffering and an opportunity to concentrate entirely on recovery. The pediatric oncology floor underwent a complete overnight transformation. Law enforcement personnel were positioned at key locations within the hallway. Forensic specialists carefully examined the pharmacy, and hospital security personnel diligently monitored each patient's room. Relatives, who had gathered following urgent notifications from the hospital, clustered in smaller groups, their expressions reflecting a blend of apprehension and anger, while hospital officials detailed the unfolding events. Daniels and Ranger continued to be positioned close to the main nurses' station, observing how Detective Morales managed the expanding inquiry. The district attorney authorized charges given the substantial proof. However, they required Winter's complete confession to grasp the extent of her actions. She stayed in an administrative conference room, being watched, and had declined to speak further unless her lawyer was there. 6 active 4 bags have been confirmed to contain adulterants, according to a report from the hospital pharmacist, who presented the tablet displaying laboratory results, all prepared by Winters within the last 48 hours. The affected bags have been replaced, and blood samples have been taken from each patient to determine exposure levels. Morales nodded grimly. Regarding the substance itself, the pharmacist explained that it is a sophisticated compound which triggers inflammatory markers. This method essentially mimics the body's response to infection without being detectable in standard toxicology screens. The symptoms appear as complications of the underlying cancer or side effects of treatment. As Daniels observed, she knew exactly what she was doing. A disturbance near the elevators drew their attention. A man in an expensive suit had arrived, immediately demanding to see Nurse Winters. The attorney's arrival signaled the start of the investigation's next stage, a formal interrogation that could potentially expose the complete scope of Winter's actions. Officer Daniels, Morales stated, "I need you and Ranger present for this interview. Her reaction to your dog might elicit responses we wouldn't otherwise obtain." They proceeded to the conference room where Winters was being held. She appeared remarkably composed, her posture stiff, hands arranged precisely on the table before her. The slight lines around her mouth were the only indication of any stress. As Ranger entered the room, her gaze immediately found him. A brief, fleeting expression, perhaps hatred, perhaps fear, crossed her face before she regained her composure. "Ms. Winters," Morales began after the introductions were finished, "we have confirmed the presence of foreign substances and medications you prepared. Substances causing patients to experience life-threatening symptoms have been identified. We have recovered your journals detailing patient reactions comprehensively. Your guilt is now undeniable. Her attorney attempted to object, but Winters quieted him with a subtle motion. What precisely am I being accused of, detective? Providing excellent care to terminally ill children? Remaining with them during their most challenging times? Daniels interrupted, visibly repulsed, unable to hold back his words about the deliberate infliction of suffering on children already battling cancer. Winters' gaze moved towards him, sharp and assessing. A compelling suggestion. Can you demonstrate intent? Morales presented a tablet, displaying a video compilation of security footage that showed her repeatedly adding unauthorized substances to medications. Your own records establish intent, Ms. Winters. Detailed notes regarding dosages, timing, and anticipated reactions were present. Photographs of suffering children were also included. Then, a subtle shift occurred in her expression. It wasn't remorse, but rather a professional disappointment at being uncovered. She briefly looked at Ranger, who kept his watchful stance, his training clearly visible in his controlled alertness. The dog, she stated eventually. That's where I erred. I conducted a thorough investigation of the hospital's security protocols, taking into consideration cameras, inventory controls, and witness routines. However, I did not foresee a specially trained canine. A small, chilling smile touched her lips. A miscalculation on my part. Her attorney appeared alarmed. Abigail, I advise you to cease speaking. It is fine, Richard, she interjected calmly. The evidence is complete. I acknowledge a checkmate when I see one. She leaned forward slightly. You desire to understand why. As expected, Morales stated, switching on the recording equipment on the table. Winters' demeanor stayed unruffled as she proceeded with her speech, her tone professional and distant. Medicine involves control. The misconception that we can manage the unpredictable nature of failing human biology. Most healthcare professionals overestimate their influence. I chose to accept a different form of control. By harming children, Daniels questioned, his hand automatically moving to Ranger's shoulder. She explained, as if outlining a basic principle, that by establishing scenarios she could anticipate and control, she mitigated the feeling of urgent intervention, the parents' relief when their child unexpectedly improved, and the admiration of colleagues for handling difficult cases. Her expression remained unsettlingly calm. There's power in that instant when life and death are poised delicately, and you alone determine the outcome. Her revelation caused a palpable shift in the atmosphere. This was not a crime driven by emotion or need. It was a deliberate, ongoing infliction of harm for personal psychological satisfaction. How many? Morales inquired softly. How many children have you harmed? Winters inclined her head a little, pausing to think. Hurt is open to interpretation, detective. Many were already facing life-threatening conditions. I merely hastened or complicated their paths, she responded, shrugging. I've been employed at 7 hospitals over the past 8 years. I seldom maintained exact records. The informality of her reply hit Daniels with the force of a physical blow. 7 hospitals, 8 years. The potential number of victims was staggering. Throughout the interview, Winters described her methods with the dispassionate accuracy of someone analyzing an academic case study, instead of recounting her own crimes against vulnerable children. She elaborated on how she chose victims, how she adjusted dosages to produce particular symptoms, and how she recorded responses for her personal records. And the deaths? Morales persisted. What about the children who did not survive your interventions? For the first time, Winters displayed a visible emotional reaction. It wasn't regret, but rather something akin to professional pride. Those cases offered distinct learning opportunities. The boundary between crisis and catastrophe is compelling to analyze. Her lawyer subsequently stepped in, understanding the detrimental effect her words were having. However, the harm had already occurred. Winters' admission guaranteed she would be barred from healthcare employment and would likely face decades in prison, potentially for the rest of her life. As preparations were made to transfer her to police custody, Winters paused near Daniels and Ranger. Remarkable animal, she noted clinically. What specific compound was he trained to detect? Justice, Daniels replied concisely, Observing officers escort her away in handcuffs. 21 days following Abigail Winters' arrest, Memorial General Hospital held a private meeting for the families impacted by her actions. The spacious conference room was occupied by parents, whose children had suffered unforeseen complications during their cancer treatments, complications now recognized as the consequence of intentional manipulation, instead of the normal progression of their illnesses. Hospital Administrator Dr. Patricia Goldman addressed the gathered families, her usual confident appearance softened by the seriousness of her role. There are no words sufficient to convey our grief over the events that occurred within our facility, she began. We did not fulfill our essential obligation to safeguard vulnerable patients entrusted to our care. Daniels stood at the back of the room with Ranger beside him. Several families specifically requested their presence to thank the K-9 officer who had uncovered Winters' actions. Goldman detailed the hospital's extensive response, including new medication protocols, enhanced security measures, and psychological support for affected patients. Daniels noted the spectrum of feelings present in the room: grief, anger, relief, and the distinct, troubled look on the faces of parents reflecting on every challenging instance their child had endured during treatment. The investigation has verified 19 instances of intentional medication tampering at our facility, Goldman stated, her voice remaining composed despite the troubling news she was conveying. Customized treatment plans have been created for the children who survived these events, designed to handle any potential long-term consequences. For the children who were lost, her voice faltered, we cannot undo this, but we pledge to provide support in any way possible. A father in the front row stood, his face etched with grief and anger. My daughter, Sophie, passed away during what you termed a crisis event on Winters' shift 3 months ago. She had been recovering prior to that night. His voice trembled. How can I ever trust a hospital again? How can any of us? The room fell silent, the question unanswered until a small voice from the doorway eased the tension. Officer Ranger helped me get better. Everyone's attention focused as Michael Torres, 8 years old, was wheeled into the room by his mother. The boy, whose altered medication had been stopped the night of Winters' arrest, appeared pale but resolute, with an 4-pole beside his wheelchair. He indicated Ranger directly. The police dog understood the medicine was incorrect. That's what my doctor explained. Michael offered a faint smile. He's a hero dog. The uncomplicated declaration from a child appeared to alter the atmosphere in the room. Families started recounting their experiences, detailing instances where their children had faced unexplained difficulties, now illuminated by Winters' admission. The shared trauma was evident, yet so was the comfort of realizing these events weren't arbitrary misfortunes or shortcomings in medical understanding. Following the close of the formal meeting, Daniels was approached by numerous parents eager to meet Ranger. Many expressed their gratitude, often tearfully, for his faith in his partner's instincts, especially given the absence of clear warning signs. The hospital's pediatric psychologist had proposed that an encounter with Ranger could be beneficial for the children, offering a way to work through their experiences by centering on the canine who had apprehended the person who harmed them. While children gently stroked Ranger under Daniel's watchful guidance, Detective Morales spoke to him privately regarding developments in the investigation. The case is broadening, Morales stated softly. We're certain Winters was employed at hospitals in 4 states, consistently within pediatric units, always involving vulnerable patients. 3 additional hospitals have restarted inquiries into unusual patient fatalities during her time with them. What is the total number of victims? Daniels observed, noticing how Ranger calmly received affection from a delicate girl whose arms showed marks from many 4 lines. We might never know the precise number, Morales confessed. Her journals cover a span of 6 years, but we believe her actions started during nursing school. A cautious assessment suggests more than 50 children were harmed, with at least 17 deaths that can be clearly linked to her actions. The extent of Winters' crimes proved hard to grasp. A campaign spanning years, masked by a veneer of professionalism, had, according to her initial psychological evaluation, presented a clear example of what clinicians now recognized as medical deception disorder, a pathological compulsion to fabricate and manage medical emergencies to fulfill profound psychological needs for control, recognition, and affirmation. The prosecutors expressed assurance, and Daniels inquired, Morales affirmed. Her admission by itself would suffice. The combination of physical evidence, documentation, and witness statements suggests she faces multiple life sentences. She will not be able to work in healthcare again, nor will she have access to vulnerable patients. A small hand tugged at Daniel's uniform pants. Michael Torres looked up at him from his wheelchair, his eyes serious, beyond his years. Officer Daniels, can Ranger visit me sometimes when I have treatments? My mom says he might be allowed as a therapy dog. Daniels knelt to the boy's level. That could potentially be arranged. Ranger is quite remarkable. He's received training as both a detection dog and a therapy dog. Michael nodded gravely. He was aware that the problematic nurse was harming children when others were not. Perhaps he can offer some comfort now. This straightforward request summarized everything about the case that had impacted Daniel so profoundly. Children battling serious illnesses had encountered an extra, concealed threat from someone in a position of trust. Despite such a deep breach of trust, solace could still be found in the presence of a dog whose specialized training and unwavering instincts revealed the truth. As the families slowly left, Dr. Goldman spoke to Daniels. We are establishing a K-9 screening program for all pediatric medications, she explained. Your department has consented to assist in training our security personnel. Cannot reverse the past, but it may avert comparable incidents going forward. Daniels nodded, observing Ranger's careful interaction with the last child. I'm just doing what I was trained to do, he said softly, detecting substances that shouldn't be present. Goldman countered, no, you both accomplished something far more significant. You prioritized intuition over surface impressions. Everyone perceived Winters as an exemplary nurse. You recognized her true nature, because you listened to your partner when he expressed concern. At that instant, observing Ranger's gaze directed upwards, filled with complete trust, Daniels grasped the profound strength of the K-9 handler bond, a partnership founded on reciprocal respect and steadfast belief in each other's capabilities. Collaboratively, they had exposed a predator concealed in an ordinary environment, concluding a sequence of incidents that could have persisted without intervention. Have you ever observed an animal detect something humans overlooked? Animals frequently exhibit remarkable instincts, capable of sensing things we cannot. Please share your experiences in the comments section. What are your opinions regarding hospitals utilizing K-9 security units? Do you believe more healthcare facilities should incorporate service dogs to enhance both security and patient well-being? We value your input. Considering the scenario, if you were Officer Daniels, would you have relied on your K-9 partner's warnings, even when all others defended Nurse Winters' reputation? Occasionally, relying on our intuition or our partner's intuition can make a significant impact. Thank you for watching today's remarkable K-9 story. If you enjoyed learning about Ranger's life-saving work, remember to subscribe and enable notifications by clicking the bell icon to ensure you don't miss our uploads every Tuesday and Friday. Check out these other inspiring K-9 hero stories appearing on your screen now. We appreciate you watching. Please share this video with those who recognize the remarkable connection between handlers and their K-9 partners. Until next time, remain safe, understanding these four-legged heroes are working diligently to safeguard us all. A police officer is sentenced to death for a murder he maintains he did not commit. As time dwindles, his devoted German shepherd refuses to abandon hope, sensing a truth others miss. Then, just days before the execution, the dog performs an extraordinary act that alters the course of events. But will this astounding revelation arrive too late to save his partner's life? And what dangerous secret has been concealed so thoroughly that only a dog's instincts could reveal it? Please share in the comments below where you're watching from. If you enjoy extraordinary canine stories like this one, remember to subscribe. You won't want to miss future episodes. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in courtroom March 11th, 10, casting harsh shadows across Jack Calloway's face. 15 years spent on the Portland police force had taught him to manage his expressions, but even his considerable training couldn't fully hide the tightness in his jaw as he awaited the verdict. His service weapon and badge were absent, substituted by handcuffs that pressed into his wrists. Judge Martinez's gavel broke the heavy silence. Has the jury reached a verdict? The jury forewoman rose, her voice trembling a little as she opened the paper she held. Jack's gaze swept the room with practiced precision. His lawyer, David Walsh, held his pen with such force that his knuckles were pale. District Attorney Peterson's lips curved subtly upward. In the rear, Eva Mercer remained rigidly upright, her expression carefully neutral. She had been his associate for 6 years, yet she might as well have been an unknown. Regarding the case of the state versus Jack Calloway, concerning the charge of first-degree murder, the defendant has been found. The forewoman hesitated, adjusting her voice. Guilty. The pronouncement struck Jack with a palpable force, yet he remained motionless. The courtroom filled with hushed intakes of breath and murmurs. The jury suggests execution by lethal injection. Jack tightened his jaw as his thoughts rapidly reviewed the evidence that had determined his outcome. The murder weapon discovered in his garage was free of fingerprints. The security footage depicted someone of similar stature entering Senator Harrison's residence, and a witness testified to having seen his car parked nearby that night. The evidence appeared impeccable, almost too impeccable. However, he possessed the true account. Outside the courthouse, Bolt awaited his temporary handler. The German Shepherd's ears rose at the sound of the substantial doors opening. As Jack emerged in handcuffs, Bolt's entire body stiffened. He gave a sharp bark, straining against his leash so powerfully that Officer Torres nearly lost his balance. "Easy, boy," Torres said, working to keep hold. But Bolt's barking escalated, becoming more panicked. The dog perceived a problem. He felt it with an intuition that surpassed human comprehension. From the courthouse steps, Eva watched, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled her jacket tighter against the October chill. She tracked down murderers with Jack, broken up drug rings, survived shootouts. Now she was watching him being taken away as one of the criminals they'd sworn to stop. The evidence had seemed solid when she'd first reviewed it. Too solid, a voice in her head whispered. Across 15 years in law enforcement, she hadn't encountered a case conclude with such precision, each element fitting seamlessly. It resembled a connect-the-dots illustration of culpability, where the connections were made without any questioning of the resulting form. Jack maintained his gaze ahead as they escorted him toward the prisoner transport van, Bolt's escalating barks reverberating against the courthouse walls. The dog's unease broke through Eva's professional composure. Throughout 4 years of service, Bolt had never been mistaken about an individual. Not a single time. As the transport van departed, Bolt's barks softened into subdued, sorrowful whimpers. The German Shepherd looked toward Eva, his brown eyes conveying a level of understanding that made her pause. She crouched down next to him, stroking his dense coat. "It's all right, boy," she murmured, primarily to herself rather than to the dog. "Something feels amiss, and we will discover what it is." District Attorney Peterson walked past, his expression conveying his recent victory. "Good work today, Detective Mercer. Justice was served," he said. However, Eva detected something in his delivery. Felt like a warning, or maybe a challenge. She recalled Jack's words from 3 weeks prior, shortly before his arrest. "There's something bigger going on here, Eva. The Harrison case. It's just the surface." She had disregarded his worries then, preoccupied with the increasing evidence against him. Observing Peterson walk away, while Bolt growled quietly beside her, she pondered what her partner had uncovered that warranted framing him for murder. The van vanished around the corner, transporting Jack toward death row. Bolt's posture became rigid, his ears attentive, as if he sensed Eva's hardening determination. She rose, her decision becoming clear. Jack had instructed her that the truth wasn't always as it appeared. The moment had arrived to apply those lessons and uncover the truth surrounding Senator Harrison's death, before time expired for her partner. The metal door of cell 241 closed with a hollow clang that seemed to resonate through Jack's bones. The confined space felt like a tomb. It contained bare concrete walls, a narrow cot with a thin mattress, and a stainless steel/toilet sink combination that had seen better days. A single artificial light buzzed overhead, offering no natural illumination. "Welcome to death row, detective," the guard stated, his voice devoid of feeling. Or, as he added, ex-detective. Jack remained still, positioned in the middle of his cell, his thoughts wrestling with the starkness of his circumstances. The sound of the guard's footsteps diminished as he walked away, leaving Jack solitary, accompanied by the echoes of metal doors, indistinct voices, and his own introspection. Across town, Eva opened the door to her apartment, Bolt following closely. She had intended to provide him with a temporary residence until alternative arrangements were finalized, but the German Shepherd appeared to have his own agenda. He moved restlessly between the door and the window, his nails tapping against the hardwood floor. Frequently, he would pause and whine, looking at Eva with eyes that seemed to convey an urgent message. Eva arranged the case files on her kitchen table, the lamp creating long shadows on the wall. She had examined them a dozen times prior to the trial, but something about Bolt's behavior at the courthouse had ignited a renewed sense of purpose. Her focus initially landed on the murder weapon, a .45 caliber pistol discovered in Jack's garage 3 days following Senator Harrison's death. The ballistics analysis confirmed a perfect match, and the gun had been meticulously cleaned to remove fingerprints. She mused it was almost excessively clean, recalling Jack's insistence on meticulous weapon upkeep. Had he employed it, there would have been traces of gun oil, rather than this pristine condition. Bolt abruptly ceased his pacing, his head turning sharply towards Eva's front door. A low growl emanated from his throat as footsteps neared in the hallway. Eva's hand automatically moved to her service weapon, but the footsteps continued past. Bolt's growl subsided, although his vigilance persisted, his body rigid and prepared. Her phone vibrated. A message from Detective Rodriguez read, "Leave it alone, Mercer. The case is closed." Eva's jaw clenched. She hadn't informed anyone that she was examining the files. The following morning, she went to the evidence lockup, displaying her badge to Officer Chin. "I need to review some items from the Harrison case." Chin seemed uneasy. "That's been sealed by the DA's office. It requires special clearance now." "Since when?" Eva asked. "Orders came down this morning." "Sorry, Eva." Returning to her desk, Eva started examining Harrison's actions prior to his death. The senator had been involved in multiple significant undertakings, but one was particularly noteworthy: a sequence of private discussions regarding the city's upcoming highway development project. Involving millions in contracts, the project had been expedited despite considerable environmental worries. Bolt, lying beneath her desk, suddenly became attentive. His ears rose as Captain Rivera neared. Mercer, Rivera's voice remained quiet but resolute, informed him of a call from the district attorney's office. They expressed concern regarding his recent investigations. "It was simply a matter of finalizing outstanding details, sir. The matters are resolved. Please cease your pursuit." He hesitated, his demeanor relaxing a little. "Avoid complicating the situation unnecessarily." That evening, Eva walked Bolt as they regularly did. The German Shepherd guided her along their known path, but when they neared the location of the new highway construction, he abruptly halted. He sniffed the air, guiding Eva towards a construction trailer. Situated behind it, obscured by scattered materials, she located a damaged piece of paper. Despite the deterioration from mud and water, she discerned a few words: Harrison and payment schedule. With a slight tremor in her hands, Eva photographed the fragment and then placed it in an evidence bag. Bolt remained watchful, his stance stiff, observing the surrounding shadows. A car engine started in the vicinity. Eva noticed a dark sedan driving away, its headlights extinguished. It appeared someone had been observing her. Upon returning home, Eva's computer received an encrypted communication from her contact within the forensics lab. They confirmed a match based on the partial prints she had requested, but noted an anomaly. The file had been altered, requiring a higher level of security clearance that her contact lacked. Eva was preparing to reply when Bolt's growl shattered the silence. She glanced around and saw a small red dot flickering on her wall. It was a laser sight. Without hesitation, she dropped to the floor as her window exploded inward. Glass rained down as Bolt's powerful barks filled the apartment. Eva crawled to her weapon, her heart pounding. It was clear now. She wasn't just chasing a theory anymore. She was getting close to something, and someone was willing to kill to keep it hidden. The early morning fog clung to Eva's shoes as she and Bolt approached the back entrance of the Harrison estate. Fragments of yellow police tape drifted in the breeze, a diminishing echo of the senator's tragic death. She had leveraged her connections to gain access, a final inspection of the property prior to its sale. Bolt proceeded purposefully, his nose actively analyzing the air as he tracked a scent trail perceptible only to him. Eva, experienced with numerous K-9 teams, could immediately sense when a dog had identified something significant. The German Shepherd guided her through the pristine garden, disregarding the clear access points, directly to a somewhat concealed storm cellar. This wasn't present in the initial crime scene photographs, Eva commented, observing the sturdy padlock. A swift scan with her flashlight uncovered another detail, recent scratch marks near the keyhole. Later, at the precinct, Eva was thoroughly reviewing Harrison's financial records when her computer screen abruptly went dark. A notification displayed, "System maintenance required." Access to all files was disrupted. "That's not a coincidence," she murmured to Bolt, who was watchful under her desk. 3 other detectives expressed frustration with their screens. The shutdown affected the entire department. Her disposable phone vibrated. "Meet me at Riverside Park. 1 hour." She recognized the message. I knew Harrison. The voice was male, elderly, and unknown. Eva located her informant on a quiet bench, scattering seed for pigeons. Former Judge Michael Conway retired 3 years ago following 2 decades of service on the bench. A month prior to his passing, Harrison informed me, Conway stated, without raising his gaze from the pigeons. He claimed to have uncovered details regarding the highway project, noting discrepancies in the bidding procedures, shell corporations, and millions of dollars diverted to offshore accounts. I inquired why he hadn't testified during the trial. Conway's hands shook as he tossed more breadcrumbs. He explained that the last individual Harrison shared his concerns with subsequently died in a robbery gone wrong. I then questioned him about his partner. He finally made eye contact. Calloway was getting too close. They needed him removed. A jogger approached. Conway became silent until they passed. Harrison maintained proof. Records, recordings, everything. In his, a sudden sharp sound echoed through the air. Conway lowered his head, a tiny red mark appearing on his forehead. Bolt's warning bark arrived a fraction of a second too late. Eva moved quickly to safety behind a concrete planter as another shot stirred up dirt close to her feet. Bolt remained down low, his training taking over as he directed her towards the nearest exit. They reached her car as police sirens started to sound faintly in the distance. That evening, Eva remained in her apartment, her hands still trembling as she examined her notes. Conway's final words resonated in her mind. Harrison possessed evidence. The storm cellar. It needed to be there. Her phone sounded. Jack's lawyer. They were accelerating the execution date. There were 2 weeks, possibly fewer. Eva's stomach sank. 2 weeks. It wasn't sufficient time. A scrape at her window startled her, but it was merely a tree branch. Then she observed a detail. The limb was positioned too near. It hadn't been that close yesterday. Bolt check, she instructed. The German Shepherd proceeded to the window, his demeanor shifting immediately. A suppressed growl emanated from his chest. Eva cautiously drew back the drape. A compact camera had been affixed to the branch, its lens focused squarely on her desk. The following morning, she returned to the Harrison estate prior to sunrise. Her lock picks compromised the storm cellar lock after 10 fraught minutes. Bolt initiated the descent, his training evident as he swiftly cleared the area. The cellar was bare, containing only a steel filing cabinet and a laptop coated in dust. Eva felt disheartened, but Bolt began nudging a particular point on the floor. His actions were clear. He had located something. A dislodged floorboard exposed a concealed compartment. Within it, a waterproof case held precisely what Conway had described: files, USB drives, and a voice recorder. Eva had just obtained the evidence when Bolt's warning bark broke the quiet. Footsteps sounded from above. Detective Mercer's voice called down, a sound she recognized. "Find anything of note?" A chill went through her. It was Captain Rivera. He continued, I genuinely hoped you'd be more perceptive than Calloway, that you'd grasp that certain questions are best left unanswered. His flashlight beam sliced through the gloom as he came down the stairs. Eva detected the unmistakable sound of a firearm being prepared. Bolt placed himself between Eva and the looming danger, his body tense and prepared. They were confined below ground with incriminating proof and a compromised senior officer. Regardless of what transpired next, there was no possibility of retreat. Eva's thoughts hurried as Rivera's footsteps echoed down the basement stairs. Her weapon was raised, but eliminating her captain would only confirm Jack's belief in everyone's perception. Bolt stayed completely motionless, anticipating her order. Rivera stated, his voice unusually calm, that Harrison never grasped the larger context. He added that this was similar to Jack and similar to you. A loud crash occurred from above. Bolt had tipped over a metal trash can close to the cellar entrance during their previous search. Rivera reacted immediately, turning toward the sound. Eva took advantage of the opportunity, tackling him as Bolt moved forward, grabbing Rivera's gun hand. The weapon fell down the stairs. Eva fastened Rivera's hands behind his back using restraints. The larger issue. Are you referring to the highway project fraud? Rivera chuckled, a grating sound in the poorly lit cellar. Do you believe this concerns a few $1 million in construction kickbacks? Harrison uncovered a significantly larger scheme. Why do you suppose they worked so hard to expedite Jack's conviction? Before Eva could reply, radio transmissions crackled from above. Rivera's reinforcements were approaching. She took the evidence case and moved further into the cellar. Bolt guided her toward a corroded maintenance tunnel, a means of escape absent from any architectural drawings. They appeared 2 blocks away precisely as police sirens approached the Harrison estate. Eva's disposable phone vibrated. A message arrived from an unidentified sender. Storage Unit 247, Riverside Rentals, code 5891. Proceed quickly. The storage facility stood empty upon their arrival. Unit 247's lock disengaged, exposing a limited area holding just a laptop and a manila envelope. The laptop activated, displaying a video file already prepared. Senator Harrison's face appeared on the screen, the timestamp indicating 3 days prior to his murder. The message began, "If you are viewing this, I am likely deceased. What I have discovered extends beyond corruption. The highway project serves as a disguise. The construction company, the offshore accounts, they all conceal something significantly greater. Criminal enterprises, including international drug trafficking and weapon shipments, are utilizing our port. Law enforcement, judicial figures, and city officials appear to be complicit. I have gathered evidence implicating everyone, including..." The recording ended unexpectedly. Eva examined the manila envelope, discovering photographs of prominent officials at clandestine gatherings, financial records detailing substantial transfers, and a roster of individuals. Her hands shook as she identified them: judges, politicians, and senior police personnel. Alongside each name, a corresponding number appeared, presumably indicating their share of the undertaking. Bolt's cautionary growl resonated just as the storage unit's door violently shut, casting them into complete darkness. The sound of a padlock securing itself reverberated within the restricted area. "Detective Mercer?" A voice called out from beyond the door. "District Attorney Peterson." A statement followed. "I have to admit, you've been more persistent than we anticipated, but this ends now." The distinct odor of gasoline drifted in from beneath the door. Eva's heart pounded as she listened to liquid being poured near the unit. "It's unfortunate," Peterson said. "A distressed detective, struggling with her partner's conviction, experiences a devastating accident while investigating conspiracy theories. That's the story the newspapers will present." Eva felt along the unit's rear wall, locating what she had observed previously: a maintenance panel weakened by age. As Peterson spoke at length outside, she silently worked it free. The service weapon would be located in the ashes, naturally, along with any evidence you believe you've uncovered. A regrettable conclusion, but unavoidable. The clear sound of a lighter igniting prompted Eva to move. She forced open the panel, entering a confined maintenance corridor. Bolt followed closely as flames erupted behind them. They reached the open air as smoke began pouring from the storage facility. Eva had succeeded in concealing the laptop and key documents within her jacket, though she anticipated Peterson would believe everything had been destroyed. Her phone vibrated. A message arrived from Jack's attorney. The execution date was established, 8 days. Eva glanced at Bolt. His fur soiled from their flight, yet his eyes were watchful and prepared. They possessed the evidence now, sufficient to reveal everything. However, with Jack's execution expedited and dishonest officials present at all levels, time was dwindling. A notification sounded on her disposable phone, another message from an unknown sender. They are transporting something significant through the port tomorrow night. Pier 23. This is what Harrison lost his life attempting to reveal. Eva stroked Bolt's ears, her determination strengthening. What do you say, boy? A final opportunity to dismantle them all? Bolt's firm bark was the response she required. 7 days remained until Jack's scheduled execution. Eva positioned her car near Pier 23, Bolt watchful in the rear seat. The port security cameras had inexplicably stopped functioning 10 minutes prior. Through her binoculars, she observed unmarked trucks maneuvering to the rear of a recently arrived cargo ship. "This is Detective Mercer," she murmured into her encrypted radio. Activity confirmed at Pier 23. Standing by for federal response. Following her escape from the storage fire, she had reached out to the one person she could still trust, FBI agent Sarah Chun, who had previously collaborated with Jack on a joint task force years ago. The evidence Eva had secured was now safely in federal custody, but more was required. They needed to apprehend the individuals involved. Bolt's quiet growl alerted her to activity on the pier. A recognizable figure emerged from a black SUV, Captain Rivera, having been released on bail just hours ago. He was accompanied by District Attorney Peterson and a man Eva identified from Harrison's photos, Marcus Reynolds, CEO of the construction company at the core of the situation. Her radio transmitted a message: all units maintain current positions. A sudden, forceful rap on her passenger window startled Eva. She turned to see Peterson there, a gun pointed at her head. "You're becoming a real problem, Detective," he said, his smile chilling in the darkness. "Get out of the car. Both of you." As Eva exited, Bolt following closely, she observed other people stepping out of the shadows. They had been anticipating her. "Your persistence is admirable," Peterson stated, leading them toward the pier. "But did you truly believe we wouldn't be monitoring you? That we didn't anticipate your actions?" Rivera moved closer, manipulating Eva's radio. "Reinforcements from the federal government aren't arriving. That frequency has been compromised for several hours." They were directed to the location where Reynolds was watching the unloading process. Boxes were rapidly moved from the ship to the trucks. "You find it amusing, don't you?" Reynolds commented without looking at Eva. Jack nearly understood everything. The construction project, the port access, everything. He concentrated excessively on Harrison and neglected to scrutinize his own department. "You are correct," Eva responded, her hand moving slowly to her back. "He should have." Bolt's ears twitched at the sound of footsteps on metal overhead. Eva smiled. "However, I did." Gunfire erupted as FBI snipers opened fire from the surrounding cargo containers. The genuine raid team had never employed the radio. That was a diversion intended to elicit their observation. Disorder broke out on the pier. Peterson raised his weapon, but Bolt acted more swiftly, propelling himself at the DA with practiced accuracy. Eva took cover as gunfire began from multiple directions. "FBI! Everyone on the ground!" Through the confusion, Eva noticed Rivera moving toward a vehicle. She gave chase with Bolt close behind as FBI teams took control of the area. Preventing Rivera's escape was crucial. He represented their connection to everyone implicated, extending to the highest echelons. The pursuit led them through a complex arrangement of cargo containers. Rivera was attempting to reach a waiting boat. They had only seconds to prevent him. "Bolt, stop him," Eva ordered. The German Shepherd surged forward, a swift display of focused strength, precisely as Rivera arrived at the boat's ladder. Bolt's jaws closed on Rivera's leg, causing him to fall heavily onto the dock. As Eva restrained him, Rivera exclaimed, "You have no idea what you've done." As others learned, they already knew, Eva interrupted, noting the increasing number of FBI vehicles. "We didn't just target you tonight. Teams are engaging with judges, politicians, and police officials throughout the city." It's finished. Her phone vibrated. A message from Agent Chun. "Evidence secured. Proceeding to the governor's office now. Instruct Jack to remain." Eva glanced at her watch. 6 days, 13 hours remained until the execution. For the first time in weeks, she permitted herself a glimmer of hope. A chill ran down her spine, even as Rivera's laughter echoed as she led him away in cuffs. "You really think this is over?" She wondered. There's still time for accidents to happen, especially in prison. 20 hours remained until Jack's execution. Despite the FBI raids and mounting evidence, the governor hadn't signed the stay of execution. Eva paced the prison's administrative office while Bolt sat alert by the door. "Someone's blocking our access to the governor," Agent Chin explained, frustration evident in her voice. "Whenever we approach a resolution, we're being rerouted to less senior personnel. They appear to be delaying action." Eva's phone received a notification. It was an encrypted message from an unidentified sender. "Loading dock. Prison kitchen. Midnight. Your partner will not survive until morning." She presented the message to Chun. "They are planning their operation tonight. We cannot initiate a movement of Jack without the necessary approval," Chun cautioned. "If we are incorrect, the consequences will be significant." Eva glanced at her watch. It was 11:45 p.m., and we have exhausted our available time. The prison's loading dock lay in shadows and silence as Eva and Bolt established their concealed location. Using her night vision scope, she identified 3 individuals near the kitchen entrance. One was dressed in a guard's uniform. "Target confirmed," she murmured into her radio. "They're here." The compromised guard unlocked the door, and 2 additional figures entered. Eva identified one by his characteristic limp. Marcus Reynolds himself had arrived to guarantee Jack's silence. "Hold position," Chen's voice crackled in Eva's earpiece. Minutes passed slowly. Eva's heart raced as she pictured them moving through the prison's corridors toward death row. Toward Jack. Suddenly, Bolt's ears twitched. A different sound. A vehicle approaching rapidly from behind. "We've got company," Eva warned, but it was too late. Floodlights burst on, revealing the loading dock. They had entered a trap. Detective Mercer, District Attorney Peterson's voice, resonated through a megaphone. He had secured bail just hours prior. "Did you genuinely believe we'd permit your interference?" Gunfire broke out from several locations. Eva and Bolt took cover behind concrete barriers as bullets ricocheted off metal nearby. Over her radio, she heard Chen's team clashing with hostiles on the opposite side of the prison. "Chun is dividing our forces. Reynolds is still moving toward Jack." Chun shouted back over the sound of gunfire, "Little busy here." Eva looked at Bolt and saw the same determination in his eyes that she felt. "Ready, boy?" The German Shepherd's muscles tensed in response. They moved as one, Eva providing covering fire while Bolt charged forward, a focused missile of fur and fury. He crashed into the nearest gunman, creating the opening they needed. They sprinted for the kitchen entrance, bullets tracking their path. Within, they detected the sound of footsteps resonating along the corridor leading to death row. A contest was unfolding, and failure was not an option. The execution chamber awaited at the corridor's conclusion. This time, there would be no further opportunities. 2 months later, Jack Calloway stood in the morning sunlight outside the courthouse, Bolt positioned beside him. The press conference had just concluded. The investigation revealed a sprawling corruption scheme involving 37 indictments, including 2 judges, the district attorney, and multiple high-ranking police officials. The corruption network that had nearly cost Jack his life was finally exposed. Eva observed from the sidelines as Jack knelt to ruffle Bolt's fur. The German Shepherd's tail wagged with unrestrained joy, a stark contrast to his desperate barks on that fateful day of the conviction. Some attributed their discovery of the truth to mere luck, but Eva knew better. Occasionally, the most dependable evaluator of character walked on four legs. If you found this story as remarkable as we did, please share it with fellow K9 and true crime enthusiasts. What moment kept you captivated? Let us know in the comments below. We're also interested to know where in the world you are watching this compelling story of loyalty and justice from. Share your location in the comments. Ring that notification bell to ensure you never miss an upload. For more amazing K9 cases, please view our latest videos now. Until next time, remember, sometimes the biggest heroes have four paws and a badge.